It is almost my birthday, so today I'm going to show you how to make these adorable birthday bear macarons. All of the ingredients and things you'll need for the shell are relatively normal. Everything's the same except to make the bear head and that fun little party hat, I'm going to be using 3 different piping tips. Now, I've shown you my process for making a French meringue at home so many times, so go skip to another video and check that out if you're not sure about how to make a meringue. Otherwise, let me just get straight into what a lot of people consider the most difficult part of making macarons, which is folding in the dry ingredients and then finishing that macaronage and getting all of your ingredients to the right consistency. Now, as you may be noticing here, I have no color in my batter right now, and that's because I wanted to keep the party hats white. So I'm going to add in all of my almond flour and powdered sugar into my meringue until everything is combined, just barely combined. At that point, I will separate out a little bit of batter to keep white and finish the mixing process on that, and then separately with the rest of the batter, I'll add in some brown coloring for the bear head, and again, finish that mixing process. So for now, let's add in the ingredients. Alright, all my dry ingredients are mixed into my meringue, so I'm just going to go ahead and scoop out a tiny bit of batter. Remember, this is just for that party hat, and it's only going on the front side of my macaron, so you need a really tiny amount. As you see here, I'm using just a regular soup bowl here. I'm making a small batch, and then this is a really small amount, a small portion of my batter. You could absolutely color this whatever color you want. Because I wanted to add a lot of colorful sprinkles, I just kept mine white. Now I'm going to fold this over onto itself and mix it until the batter flows off of my spatula like a ribbon or like lava. Then I will go back and add some brown food coloring to the rest of my batter, and once again mix that until it flows off my spatula the same way. All right, I've got my 3 piping bags here, 2 with the brown color and 1 with the white, and I'm using a unicorn template, which is super helpful because the place where the unicorn horn usually goes is where I'm going to place my bear's party hat. Now, if you've ever made something like a unicorn or a bear or other animal shapes before, and if you've watched any of my previous videos showing those kinds of shapes, you might already know that I think the best way to make sure that everything ends up in the right place is to pipe the circle, the head, and then tap your tray to release any air bubbles, and that will smooth out the tops of your shells. And after that, add on the ears and the party hat. If you added on the ears and the party hat, or if this were a unicorn, if you add on the horn right now and then you tap your tray, as the larger amount of batter for the head or that main circle shape spreads out, it will end up taking your ears and horn and party hat, all of those things, it will kind of push them into weird directions. So tap your tray first and then add the details later using your smaller piping tips. As you can see here, I'm only adding the ears and horn to every other macaron, and that is because I'm only having those elements on the front, the macaron, the shell that you can see. You could put the same design on the front and back, but keep 2 things in mind. First, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. You have to be incredibly precise to make sure everything matches up perfectly, especially when you get into like the party hats. You would have to make sure that you're really getting those exactly the same so that you have macarons that match up really well, or they could look a little bit wonky. And second, if you have macarons that you're giving to people or sharing, unless you really want to have people be able to turn the macaron over and see exactly the same design, or if you wanted, I don't know, a different design on the back, if you have a macaron sitting nicely on a plate or a tray or something, especially a design like this where you don't really want to see it from the side, you're really only going to be seeing one side. So I think it's a lot more work and more macaron batter that you're using if you put that design on every single macaron. So I would definitely recommend every other macaron is just a plain circle, and every other macaron gets the ears and little party hat. I like to let my macarons rest for 20 to 30 minutes, usually when there is a shape or two different colors of batter involved, like this with the party hat edition. I like to go on the longer end, so 30, maybe even 35 minutes for that first tray to go into the oven. I bake my macarons at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 to 17 minutes, depending on a lot of variables such as the humidity of the day and how big the macarons are, etc. Once your macarons have baked and cooled, you'll want to sandwich them and find their perfect match before we get into the decorating. Now, for the bear's adorable little face, I am using a food coloring pen. You absolutely could paint it on, you could use royal icing, you could use chocolate. There are a lot of different options here, so you don't have to follow along with my exact method here, but just to keep things simple, I added on just two little eyes, and then depending on, I guess, the expression you're going for, you could just add a little nose, or you could add a nose and a little mouth as well. After all of the bears have faces, it will be time for the next decorating step. Alright, for this next step we will need some sprinkles and royal icing. Again, there are so many options here to get a relatively similar effect, so you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. I just piped a small line of royal icing and then just one bead of royal icing at the very top of the hat, and then I pressed it into a little bowl of sprinkles to squish and pick up all of those little sprinkles in the exact spots where I piped my royal icing. I used a couple of different kinds of sprinkle mixes, and later, as you'll see, I also decorated some of the party hats before I did this, really depending on what look you're going for, what the occasion is, what your favorite colors are, etc. You could do so many different things here. However, I will say, because of how relatively small this little section is, and to get more of a realistic looking party hat, you probably want to be looking for smaller, tinier sprinkles or sugar crystals. So here's another little look. I did some in pink and red as well. Anytime you are decorating with royal icing, you will want to give the macaron shells a bit of extra time to rest and dry. Let that royal icing harden, because you don't want it to go into the refrigerator or freezer while it is still tacky. So I would say give these at least an hour or two to rest at room temperature before you get into filling. For these adorable little bears, I filled them with a cookie dough filling. I actually have a couple of videos about cookie dough fillings already that you could check out. I love this filling. A lot of people I know love this filling, especially kids. So this is a really fun birthday kind of flavor. And depending on how epic you want these macarons to be, you could add a tiny little amount of cookie dough, or you could make these more of a Korean style size and add a really large amount of cookie dough in there. After the cookie dough is down, you can go through with a buttercream just to seal that in. You could just have cookie dough in the center, but I like the buttercream both for taste and texture. Whatever filling you choose, after you fill your macarons, you'll want to sandwich them and let them rest in your refrigerator or freezer for at least 24 hours to allow them to mature before you bite into them. If you don't wait that long, they are going to be crunchier than you might expect. All right, everyone, thank you so much for following along today and watching this video. I really appreciate everyone's continued support on this pastry YouTube journey I've been on. All right, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all very soon. I have a lot of exciting new videos coming your way, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. All right, see you next time. Bye.